Michael, may God bless you and protect you.
May God's light shine upon you so brightly, and may that be so gracious to you.
Shalom, shalom.
May you feel God's presence lifting you through your parents' arms, through the support of community, through all of the love, not only that you will be present for, but that you will share. And may that bring you peace. To that we say,
Amen. Siman tovu, mazel tovu, mazel tovu, siman tovu, mazel tovu, mazel tovu, siman tovu, mazel tovu, siman tovu, yehelanu.
Oh, lechol Yisrael, yehelanu, yehelanu. Oh, lechol Yisrael. As we turn in our Siddur, our prayer book, to page 138, we find the words of Lecha Dodi, welcoming Shabbat, welcoming the Shabbat love, the Sabbath bride, into our space. We'll do verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. On that 9th verse, we rise, we face the entrance as if we are welcoming the Sabbath bride down the center aisle, on the 9th verse there. But I love you ready.
Lecha Dodi, likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat, nikavela. Lecha Dodi, likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat, nikavela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad, Yishmianu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad, u'shmo echad. Shemo tiferet v'litila, lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nikavela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nikavela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nilcha, ki mekor ha'baracha, merosh mikedam nesukha, sof ma'aseh b'machashava tchila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nikavela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nikavela. Hitoreri, hitoreri, ki ba'orech u'mi'ori, uri, shir daberi, kavod Adonai alayach nigla. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nikavela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nikavela.
Rise and face the entrance.
Shalom, ateret Allah, gam besimcha u'tzola, tohem punei am segula, boi chala, lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nikavela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nikavela.
We may be seated. I'm going to invite up Tug to join us up here. And as we are, as We are here for our Sholom Justice Shabbat. We're going to hear a number of stories from our Contextos authors, our Contextos partners. Antoine Tug Evans is a published Contextos author, a builder, a father, a maker, and better known as Tug. Antoine was born in Chicago, and his life is a book. Thanks for being here.
Thank you guys for having me. It's like a dream. You blink and relive the memories, packed with feelings and real emotions. Now thinking back, recalling a time in my life when I truly thought that I knew it all. Oh boy, was I wrong. The divine universe had its way with me for a greater cause, beyond my young understanding at the time. I ponder on it, every visual, every listened word and experience within my repertoire. Hope is gone, and no hero is coming along to save the moment or the month. Or so I thought. And then I met Superwoman, as if she was spoken into my life by my mom herself, my personal hero. I didn't listen to the good advice I got. I ignored what my dad tried to teach me, thinking it didn't apply to me, and I ended up in jail. Homeless, undereducated. I blamed everybody else and everything. I blamed the lack of opportunity. I blamed my brother who I followed into trouble. I blamed the world. I was angry. I'd hear my mom's voice telling me to not give in or give up, but all I saw was a long life of hopelessness ahead of me. And I still thought I knew it all. And then I met Superwoman, the lady on the bus. I got on the bus with my daughter. Her mom was making me bring her home, and I was not happy about having to do this. I was in a real pissed off mood, angry about my son's mom asked me for money, and my clothes were still wet from the washing machine. I was mad, frustrated, and damn uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. Right away, I see the lady in the wheelchair, powder blue with flames on the side. She had no hands. She had no legs. What she did have was a pack of green Newports. A phone and a huge smile across her face. I was probably staring. In fact, I was staring. And then I noticed this other guy, and I could tell he was in a crappy mood also. He looked as if he was mad at the world, as I did. And now he's taking in the lady in the wheelchair also. No one else seemed to pay much mind, the bus driver, my daughter who I was holding in my arms. Like maybe she was on a regular bus route. The lady is talking on her cell phone. She's smiling so big. And I'm thinking, how is she gonna light that cigarette? She gets ready to get off the bus. The bus comes to a stop. Dee, dee, dee. The stairs unroll. I'm staring. And she unbuckles herself. She rolls herself down the aisle. She gets off the bus. All my cares are out of the window at this point. All I can think about is how she gonna light this cigarette. That's all. We run over to the bus, the window on the side, me and this other guy. I still have my daughter in my arms. And the cigarette was already lit. And without her speaking to me, she didn't have to. It was just the aura coming off of her. She had a smile so big still, and the cigarette was already lit. It was smoking. And what she was saying to me was, "What are you so mad about? Why are you so upset?" I never forgot that moment, that feeling. All the things my mother, my personal hero, wanted me to understand was in this real life superwoman. To believe in myself and what I can do, to have gratitude, to keep going and stay positive, to be at peace, to do good and stay good. I think my mom sent this woman to me to see and remember these feelings. Not a day goes by that I don't think about that lady on the bus and my mom and their lessons. They keep me on track to get back home whenever I'm led astray. And the words that she spoke to me was words of love and peace and to stay focused and positive. Thank y'all.
We turn in our prayer books, interspersing stories and prayers as we turn to page 146 as we rise for the Baruch Hu.
Lai, 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 lai. 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 Baruch Hu et Adonai. Baruch Adonai HaMorach Le'olam Va'ed Le'olam
Le'olam,
Le'olam
Le'olam,
Le'olam Le'olam Le'olam
Page 152, the watchword of our faith, the Shema.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad
We may be seated as we turn to page 154, celebrating love with a Ve'ahavta.
V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzalcha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'beitecha uv'lechtecha b'derech uv'shokbecha uv'kumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu totafot b'neinecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uv'isharecha למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
As I get to invite Edo to join us. Edward Edo Robinson is a passionate young writer who is introduced by one of the other Contextos authors to this community. He's lived a long life in his short years and willingly shares his experiences and lessons learned from those experiences for all who gather to listen. He's eager for the world to hear his story, and so are we. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. How are you? One of the best ways to get to know someone is by learning their story, right? So I like to share a bit of mine with you guys. I've always had people in my life who had my best interests at heart. Other than my family, there were always people in my life constantly reminding me of my potential. There were always people trying to correct me when they saw me going left. God has always been gracious and merciful to me in that way. I know that it was because of God that I was exposed to such good people. I remember many times pressing my muzzle of my gun against some poor guy's head, stripping him of his possessions. And at the same time, while in the act, I will recall all the people who I knew who saw light in me. Inwardly, I didn't want to be a villain, but I could not break away from it. I was a good guy gone bad. In the Holy Bible, in the book of Romans, Paul talks about being carnally minded. It is the things that we ought and want to do are the very things that we will not practice. Yet, the things that we hate and know that are wrong are the things we indulge in. It's funny. Why is this? It is because we live in a world of spiritual proportion. What I am saying is this: there is an ongoing war among good and evil, the angels and demons, God and Satan, here on earth. And when we don't continuously armor ourselves with the word of God, we become susceptible to all kinds of attacks. Satan attacked my mom from every angle via me because I was not allowing myself to be guarded with the armor of Christ. I inadvertently became a vessel for Satan. I had become a wolf in sheep's clothing. I will smile in your face and stab you in the back at first chance. My mother couldn't understand for the life of her. What the hell was my problem? All she could do was pray for me. I remember a Sunday morning I found myself in a church service. And of course, I had my pistol tucked in my waist. There was a time I wouldn't go anywhere without being unarmed. My life wouldn't allow me to be that way. But this just goes to show how spiritually unprotected I was. I found myself in church one Sunday morning, calling myself giving God some of my time. I felt it was the least I could do, considering all the hell I was raising. To make a long story short, guys, church had ended, and I remember being in an upset mood. I was happy that I had attended, but that morning the pastor was preaching about resisting temptation, and I felt like he was speaking directly to me. It seemed as though he was aware of everything I'd done that past week. It was kind of weird, but I appreciated his message and recall leaving with a sense of hope. On the walk home, I stumbled upon a group of guys in the middle of a heated crap game. There were about 8 guys in the game, and the closer I got, I could see the $50 and $20 bills spread over the ground as the bets continued to be yelled out. The guy who was attempting to roll the dice had a huge rack of money in his hands. So did the other fellows. My great sense of hope and upbeat spirit I had after the church service was no more. At the sight of all those bills, I tingled inside and actually gained an erection at the thought of flashing my magnum at the unsuspecting gamblers. It was about 11 o'clock in the afternoon, so I knew I had to be quick and methodical, right? I quickly devised a plan and went for it. Say, man, what y'all shooting for over here? I asked coolly with empty hands. The shooter looked up at me for a brief moment, not really surveying the situation. Goofy, I thought to myself, he don't even know what it is. He say we shooting 20 and hitting 20. He was a bit cocky, I thought, and it irritated me, guys. I stood in the circle as if I was one of the fellas and asked everybody, when can I have a shot? The guy next to me announced that I could have a shot next, and while everyone was busy looking at the ground, mesmerized at the tumbling dice, I sneakily pulled out my magnum and sprung into action. I slapped the guy nearest to me across the face with my pistol and at the same time pulled the trigger. Boom! Could you imagine that? Being hit in the face with a gun, and upon impact, the gun goes off. The poor guy probably thought God called him home. Everyone instantly hit the pavement in a bewildered kind of way. The guy I slapped with the gun was opening and closing his mouth continuously, desperately trying to regain his sudden loss of hearing. I produced a small brown paper bag I always kept folded in my pocket. I threw it at my victims and demanded, put the money in the bag. The guy I had hit with the gun was having a hearing issue, so I stood over him and placed my foot on his head while pointing my gun at him. He got the idea really quick. The first guy took hold of the brown paper bag and filled it up, and what he had quickly passed it on to the next man to do the same. It was as if they were passing the collection plate. Once the last man had finished giving up what he had, I snatched the bag out of his hand and tucked it down my sleeve. Through the inside of my jacket, the whole thing took about 2 minutes. My high and rush was climbing by the second. As I began to make my getaway, I took one final survey of the victims just to be safe. I had failed to pat any of them down, and I certainly didn't want to be shot in the back while making my escape. But from the looks of those guys' faces, they just wanted me gone. What a situation. I turned around to make a dash for it, and at that moment thought of something I had just gotten from the church service. It was a small pamphlet with a picture of Jesus arm wrestling Satan, a real vivid illustration of good versus evil. And the caption under the illustration read, "Whose side are you on?" I took the pamphlet out of my pocket, unfolded it, and threw it to those guys. One of the guys looked at what it was I had thrown down at them and peered up at me with confusion in his eyes. He had, excuse my French, "What the fuck?" written all over his face. I swallowed a lump that had developed in my throat, turned on my heels, and skedaddled. In that moment, I had chose a side. From the horse's mouth. Thank you, guys.
We turn in our Siddur to page 158 for the words of Micha Mocha. In honor of our Shabbat Mishpacha, I get an opportunity to invite our 6th and 7th graders up, but I'm also going to invite up all of our Crown Family High School teens as well. All our 6th and 7th graders who are here, as well as all of our high schoolers, join us up on the bima, please, as we are going to turn to our words of our Amidah, page 164. I know we have more because I saw you come in. Yes.
Oh,
Hi, Leah. Hi, Lila.
Lila, with such joy.
We are going to rise as we turn to
You've
page
taught her
100,
well, Marin.
page 164, continuing on the even pages.
What's wrong with me? Come on. You know me. Yeah, I did. You're right. Get over here. Get over here. Get over here. Nobody wants to hear me anymore. Ready?
We take a moment as we thank our Crown Family High School group who are here before they go on a retreat up to Osrui, up to camp for the weekend. We also want to very much appreciate all of those 6th and 7th grade teachers who are here, Arella, Isabel, and Miriam. But as we now, in the midst of our Amidah, we take a moment for silent prayer, for meditation, a moment where we get to be present and attentive to ourselves with that resting breath, paying attention to who we are, where we are, how we are. It might be the words on the page or the words in your heart. When you are done with your prayers, I'll invite you to have a seat. There's something so healing about beautiful, beautiful music. So we've heard stories of healing and we'll continue to hear them. We also take a moment now in the midst of our prayer for our Mi Sheberach prayer. Literally, may the one who blessed our ancestors bless us. Bless our friends, our families, our loved ones who are in need of that blessing of healing. It might be a blessing of physical healing, of mental healing, of spiritual healing. If there are those who you are thinking of in need of healing, I'll invite you to share their name aloud with our community. So pray the words of Mi Sheberach, which can be found on page 371.
Mi Sheberach Avoteinu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength who blessed the ones before us help us find the courage
Eliza. Thank you so much. So, and I don't know if everybody knows this, but Eliza is part of this amazing service this evening. Thank you so much. You know that, but you might not know why she's actually part of this service this evening, and it's not just because of her beautiful voice, and it's really not even just to gift this congregation with her beautiful voice, but it's to celebrate her mom's birthday. And what's a beautiful thing about Temple Sholom and Eliza Lampert and the Lampert family, period, is that we like to celebrate together here as a community. And so I want to say that it is such a blessing to be able to have an evening like this with you. You bring so much joy to our community. To want to celebrate a birthday here with us means so much. Happy birthday. I
And
wouldn't
Eliza.
embarrass you to have you come up and for all of us to sing happy birthday.
Eliza, thank you for having that soul and doing it in combat boots. You know that I'm a proud cantor.
Why would you give
I
her
don't know.
that kind of a compliment?
Forcing the
Could
kids
you
to do it
just
for a while now.
Well, maybe not everybody has a good view of the shoes that you're wearing right now. Speaking of beautiful voices in combat boots. I have an honor now to invite up Sol Sanchez. And as I do so, I want to invite up her most favorite cheerleaders as well. So if her husband and her sons would come forward now as we have this honor of celebrating Sol. So Sol, by the way, I love that your name in English and in Spanish says everything about you. I love that in Spanish it means sun. And certainly you are the sun to us in so many ways. And also that it sounds in English like soul. And you bring so much soul to this community. Now, I just want to say how perfect, yeah, please. Oh, there's Julian. I was like, where's Julian? So I just, do you want to just all have can I just take this from you? What about your glasses? Do you need them right now? Okay. So I just want to say this. This is such a special Shabbat for you to be able to celebrate your American citizenship. So some of you might not know Sol Sanchez, but you should. Sol is the person that most of us see in the morning when we come into this building. Better than that, this is the face that greets our beautiful children from Gan Shalom when they come into Temple Sholom. And more than that, you are such a beautiful source of support to our entire staff, many of whom came this evening because they wanted to be part of this blessing. And that you've blessed us with your sons to be part of our staff. Wow. And I want to say that this is the perfect Shabbat because this is the Shabbat on which, or I would say after which, we reminded our government what they're here for so that our elected representatives were sworn in this week just after you became an American citizen. And also, our people on this Shabbat, we start a new book in the Torah, the book of Exodus. And it begins in the very beginning of the book of Exodus is Moses' story. And most of us know those big moments from Moses when he led our people to freedom with God's care and God's miracles. But I want to say a smaller moment, which is much more typical of who you are, Sol, and why you are such a blessing. When God called out to Moses the very first time from the burning bush, Moses responded, Hineni. He said, here I am. I'm ready to be part of whatever crazy adventure you have before me. I'm ready to serve a larger purpose. I'm ready to help make a people good. Sol, this is what you've done with your family. This is what you've done with our Temple Sholom family. And this now is what you are going to continue to do for the United States of America. through your citizenship, through your saying Hineni, to this great, crazy time we're in. For you to say Hineni, I'm ready to be an American citizen. I'm ready to be and serve the people of the United States of America. And more than that, you are ready for all of us to make ourselves better because of you. Well, that's what this Shabbat is about. So I invite now the congregation, would you please rise in body and spirit? Can we have the other clergy join us here? We are going to make this time slow down by singing the Shehechianu, thanking God for giving us life, for sustaining us, and for allowing us to reach this time.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'hianu lazman hazeh. And we give her the longest, most beautiful amen.
Soul, may you continue to shine in God's light. May you continue to shine your light on all of us. May you continue to make this world worthy of you by bringing these human beings into it, by nourishing our entire family, and by coming in as a United States citizen to this world. Thank God for you. God bless you. Love you. Can we say a little Mazel Tov?
We may be seated. For our last author of the evening, I get to invite up YT. As YT will join us up here. Trevor Lester, a.k.a. YT, is from the south side of Chicago. At the age of 20, he was incarcerated for a crime he did not commit, spent 8 years in Cook County Jail awaiting trial before the charges were dropped. Now a Contextos alumni advocate, published author, and author circle facilitator, YT is focused on using his unique journey of empowerment to inspire youth and inspire us. And then I'm going to invite up Johnny Page. You'll join us me up here as we get to listen to YT. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Rabbi. Tonight, I would like to share a story with you about a very meaningful day in my life. It's called separation. Watch the company you keep. You show me your friends, and I'll show you your future. My father constantly reminded me of this since my childhood days. Guilty by association. That's a phrase I had been hearing a lot of lately. How did I get here? Would I ever see my family out on the outside again? Would I ever have the chance to start my own family? Not really questions that a 20-year-old should be asking himself, right? With shackles on my ankles, cuffs on my wrists, a chain around my waist, and a stranger to the left of me. I was so deep in thought I hadn't even noticed the older man next to me had regurgitated all over the floor of the bus. Where was this bus's destination, you ask? The Markham, Illinois courthouse. Today I was slated to begin a trial for a crime that I did not commit. It was undoubtedly the single most important day of my entire life in the last 8 years. Yes, I have been sitting in Cook County Jail for 8 years in pretrial detention, fighting to prove my innocence. But today, I would be seen as a human again if I won. Part of being a man is having the ability to hold yourself accountable for your actions, looking in the mirror knowing wholeheartedly who you see in the reflection. I know who I am, but will they? All I could do now was reflect on all the previous decisions I had made leading up to this point. My mind was racing, and to be honest, I was completely afraid of the thought of having to spend the rest of my life in prison for something that I didn't even do. But no matter the circumstances, I had always maintained hope and faith that everything would work out in my favor and my innocence would be proven. But my current reality consisted of seeing the faces and hearing the voices of the hopeless. This is the moment I had been waiting on since 2012. I woke up that day feeling extremely anxious. My heart remained heavy just as it has been since day one of this terrible situation. I'd seen many of innocent people be sent to prison due to the system and how it's designed. Would I become a statistic today, or would I be granted my freedom? That question replayed in my mind over and over like a broken record. This was my first time being detained and in jail, so for 8 years I had to learn how to adapt to my environment in order to survive. Fights, constant chaos, and misplaced frustrations, pain, trauma, among other things. I guess I had become used to this type of environment now. But I made a promise to myself that I would never conform to what was going on around me. Of course, that was easier said than done, but I definitely did the best that I could. Was I wrong for having information that something may transpire and not alerting the authorities? Maybe. But where I'm from, you mind your business. I was raised with the belief that the police were not here to protect and serve, but simply make things harder for you depending on your zip code as well as your skin color. No, this isn't true for every officer of the law, but back then I was extremely immature and I had believed that with all my heart. I also believed that sticking to the street code was the best thing to do in my interest, and I didn't want to put my family at risk of any harm whatsoever. Essentially, I kept my mouth shut, displaying loyalty to those who never even deserved it, really putting them above myself as well as my family. As I had stated, I was currently jailed for a crime that I didn't commit, but simply because the police figured that I had good knowledge and were friends with the suspect that they believed committed the crime. No concrete evidence linking me to anything about the situation, so for year after year, I waited and waited and waited, honestly not knowing what the outcome would be. My attorney assured me that he would do everything in his power to get me back home to my family. I walked into the courtroom not knowing what to expect, feeling like I had just been on an intense roller coaster ride, my heart sinking deep into my stomach. I approached the bench to greet the judge. She said, "Good morning, Mr. Lester," and she smiled at me. I returned the greeting. Then she proceeded to inform me that I would not be starting trial today. Dang, another delay, another disappointment. That's what I thought to myself. So as she continued to speak, she said that she has been looking over the case docket very closely and that the state attorney couldn't seem to bring this case to a conclusion. Then she looked me directly in the eye and said, "Mr. Lester, I will be granting you your freedom today. Don't make me regret my decision." And then my charges were dropped. Soon I would have my freedom again. My heart began to race as I realized the magnitude of this very moment. After all the years of the unexpected, after all the years of the pain, the hurt, the frustration, the anger, it was essentially all over. I exhaled, took a deep breath, and thanked the judge and assured her that I would make the most out of this opportunity because the outcome could have easily ended up in me dying in a prison cell. Excuse me. You never know how strong you are, and to being strong is the only choice that you have. The company that I once kept and so-called friends didn't exist to me anymore. I had to learn that sometimes who you surround yourself with could be harmful to you. And on the bus ride back to Cook County, I was full of gratitude and thankful that I would soon be reunited with my family again, and most of all, get started on taking the initiative to create a future that is the total opposite of my past. I was no longer guilty by association. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your time.
Now, all of these stories have been helped to be written by this incredible organization, Contexto. So I get to invite up Johnny Page, who now just 13 days ago stepped into the CEO role of Contextos, following several years, following several years of service to the organization as co-director of programs and partnership. Johnny is a formerly incarcerated professional, a speaker, an author, an anti-violence educator, and advocate, and doing so much incredible work with incredible, incredible people. Thank you, Johnny. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you all. I'm probably gonna use my outside voice because I don't know. I don't want to stand right here. This has been amazing, right? I was just telling the rabbi, I'll probably get in trouble for this, but so we've had 3 opportunities so far to speak at synagogues, and by far, maybe I'll put some pressure on the other folks in the Jewish community. Hey, by far, Temple Sholom has been the best experience I've had. I want to thank you all for inviting us in and allowing us to be a part of this program, Shabbat, Martin Luther King weekend, right? So when we think about social justice, we think about black folk and Jewish community, we have this relationship that goes back way further than many of us think and know. We have a responsibility to one another, to social justice. Contextos is a storytelling organization, and what we do is we use the power of the personal narrative to tell stories of healing and transformation. You've heard some of those stories. You've witnessed the transformation, and you can feel and see and be a part of the healing that the men still go through as they come out and speak to the community, and in this instance to Temple Sholom's community, to share their experience and their journey as they traverse through this thing we call life and learn how to live life on life's terms. Contexto started about 12 years ago in Latin America. And it's been in Chicago about 5 years. I started with Contextos maybe 4 years, a year after they were here. Our work started in Cook County Jail, Division 10, a maximum security portion of the jail. The work in itself is about text, right? Contextos, with text and context, right? With text and context. And so with text, the men you've just heard create context for some of the things that you hear when you think about what's taking place in some of those zip codes that were mentioned. To create context for what's taking place so often in Chicago and in different communities across this country, to create context. What happened last year, last summer, was unfortunate. In that moment, if that's a moment of solidarity, right? We should take moments like that, as unfortunate as they are, to use those as an opportunity to come together, to support one another, to be there, right? Because when we think about social justice and we think about what's needed to make a better world for all of us, for, what was the Mikhail? What was the baby's name? Mikhail, right? So to make a better world for Mikhail, we have to see one another. We have to support one another. This long history and long tradition of the Jewish community and the black community working together in solidarity for social justice goes back. Dr. King and the civil rights movement is just one part of the story. It's just part of the story most of us know, and it's part of the story that most of us have forgotten. But with Contextos, our job is to tell the stories, not the stories, the easy stories, the stories that we always tell, the stories that we've gotten comfortable telling, but telling those difficult stories, those stories of reflection, of challenge. It's not always bad stories, right? You know, there's beautiful stories. And at Contextos, we don't focus on the stories that sensationalize individuals or look to grab headlines. We focus on the stories that allow people to heal. Sometimes that healing comes out of stories of death and destruction, and other times it's as simple as the birth of a child. So at Contextos, we think about how the personal narrative, right? How do we complicate the narrative, right? When I come to your community and you come to my community, there is no difference. The zip code may be different. The people may look different, but people are people. And so I want to thank you all for allowing us to be a part of this, to be a part of Shabbat. I want to thank you all for the support that you have given and the support you have yet to give. I want to thank you all for taking this opportunity to come out and share in an experience that's been personally moving for me. I'm sitting here and I'm getting all choked up, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is what, you know, I do this for a living. This is not what I came here to do, right? But this has been an amazing experience, and I know that this will continue. This was the first, but it won't be the last. And so I invite you all, Contextos offices at 2240 South Michigan. If you're ever in the area, please stop by. Come in, meet with our authors, meet with our staff, grab a book, read about the stories from across the communities in Chicago, stories you haven't heard, but stories you will connect with. Story begets story. That's what we tell ourselves, right? And what we understand. When, you know, humankind have been telling stories since the beginning of the time. That's what we do. We tell stories. But oftentimes we tell the stories that we always tell, the stories that we used to tell, right? I remember when I was, you know, living out my hoop dreams and I scored 50. Right? That didn't really happen, I'm just saying. But these are the stories we tell. We don't tell the story about when I was struggling and I didn't feel as if anyone was there for me. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. And I walked into a space and someone saw me. They saw that I was struggling and they gave me an opportunity to speak my words. They gave me an opportunity to speak these words when my words escaped my grasp. They just saw me, that picture that spoke those 1,000 words. And so with Contextos, again, I thank you all. I want to leave space for you all because I'm sure there's questions. I'm sure that you would like to talk.
And we'll have opportunity to chat in Oneg. So I want to invite up the partners that we've been working with as well, our Sholom Justice leaders, Maddie, Marla, Gabe, as well as Maya Henschel, who represents the justice work of our Crown Family High School, to tell us about our next steps with Contextos, so that we can continue this partnership. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. My name is Gabriel Lerner. I've had the pleasure of working with Maddie and Marla over the past few months as I've come into the new role of co-chair of Sholom Justice. And so thank you. And we are thrilled not just to be able to pop in to Contextos, but to have an occasion to get to know Contextos better. And as they've been so kind to join us in our sanctuary and for our special Shabbat service, we're going to have the opportunity to go to Contextos in a couple of weeks to participate in their Authors Circle programming, which is, in my eyes, the chance of a lifetime to be a part of the storytelling work and the healing work that they do. We do not yet have a date finalized, so please keep an eye out in your inboxes for an email. But it's soon. And before we pass off to the next portion, I'd like to say a big thank you to this congregation for welcoming me in as a relatively new member and giving us such a wonderful platform for doing this justice-focused work. This particular Shabbat on MLK weekend focused on social justice means a lot to me because the school that I went to growing up was the first racially integrated school in DC. It was started by a set of Jewish and Black parents who thought that it was wrong that their kids couldn't go to day school together. And that work of Tikkun Olam, repairing the world, that I was taught growing up has such a wonderful home here. And there are so many ways to get involved, whether that's through the Monday meal, feeding the guests who come to our temple, whether that's through the advocacy work that we do to try to change the policies and systems in place to make our world more just, or whether that's participating in the Hanukkah Boxes projects to make people feel a touch of Hanukkah spirit in their own homes. So at the Oneg, we invite you to come up to any of us and ask us about this community and how you can be a part of it. So thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Marla and Maddie, who have been Sholom Justice co-chairs for over 7 years. Gabe, who's taken over the reins, and Maya, who's doing the incredible justice work of our youth group. Thank you all. We're going to turn back in our prayer books. We'll actually turn to announcements. Excuse me, we have a bunch of exciting things coming up this week. And so I'll start us off in honor of Martin Luther King Jr. Day, Temple Sholom offices will be closed on Monday. But before we get to Monday, there are some incredible guest scholars on Sunday morning. The first one is Through the Eyes of the Other with Rachel Korazim, talking about the more than 20% of Israeli citizens who are Arabs. In our session, we're going to encounter the most famous among Arab writers in Israel and discover and continue this work of sharing stories through poetry.
On Sunday, there is also going to be a conversation for families with the group Mishpacha, which means family. And this is a conversation asking, how do we bounce back? It's with Andrea Jacobs, Lisa Haber-Sapir, Andrea Jacobs and Lisa Haber-Sapir. It's going to be talking about developing techniques and resources for how parents can best support their kids and each other and come out stronger together. So we encourage you to please come and have this really beautiful conversation together with us.
And on Sunday, I begin my series of teaching prayer and liturgy at 11 o'clock, thank you, in my office, Class with the Cantor. And it's going to be really kind of walking through this prayer book, talking about some of the past Reformed prayer books, and really looking at the prayers themselves and the liturgy and why they're in the order they're in, and going through the sort of emotional arc of our prayer services. It's my favorite class to teach, kind of guides itself based on who comes. So it'll be in my office on the 4th floor, but it'll also be on Zoom as well.
And by the way, this is a great class for people who are new to Judaism, new to the prayer book, and it's also great for people who are very comfortable and fluid with it and who have grown up davening. Especially, especially because who doesn't want to spend an hour with the cantor every Sunday?
True.
And so hopefully you'll have a big turnout for that. I also want to say that on Monday morning, there will be a special Martin Luther King Jr. observance at 10:30 with the Federation. That's going to be on the south side. You can find more information about that on Facebook. We'll be sharing that through our Facebook channels. But it should be, if anybody appreciated the conversation that we had here with Pastor Chris Harris, it's going to be a continuation of that conversation, as well as really looking at some concrete next steps that we'll all be taking together.
So you may not know it, but Temple Sholom actually has a secret speakeasy in the basement. And if you were to go downstairs right now, you would not find it. But if you were to come next week and you were between the ages of 21 and 39, you would find our hidden speakeasy. So next week we're having a Shabbat for people in their 20s and 30s. That is going to be just a beautiful opportunity to come together and celebrate Shabbat. We have some really incredible musicians coming in for a reflective contemporary service, and then amazing Chinese food from Chef's Special Cocktail Bar. So
Wow.
you gotta come.
If you're in your 20s,
If you're in your
or
20s and 30s. Yes.
I'll just say that again because for all of us, when we heard that, we're like, can we sneak into the speakeasy? But no. No. But if you're in your 20s and 30s, yes. And I'll also say that on this Monday at 3:30, starting at 3:30, if you're wanting to volunteer with the Monday meal for Martin Luther King Jr. Day, it used to be that we were closed for that holiday, and one family said, how in the world are you closing on this day of all days when you're closing your doors to people who are vulnerable, who are struggling with poverty? Like, why would you close on that day? So they actually sponsor it so that we can keep our doors open. And if those of you who have ever volunteered with the Monday meal understand that our guests are spectacular, to have them in our Temple Sholom home is a gift, and that many of them are regulars here, and so we really get to know our guests. If you're thinking, oh, well, maybe I could volunteer this Monday, please come. There's an easy way to sign up, and I want to, thank Toby Sanders, who's right here. Toby, will you just, wave as though we don't all already know you and love you so much? So if you want to sign up for the Monday meal, you can find Toby or you can find out how online.
Can I just add one more thing? My incredible students over here, also known as my favorite human beings in the world, were so inspired by the contextual stories that were being told tonight that they whispered to me right before announcements, Cantor, I hope people can see the picture of Dr. Martin Luther King standing on our bima with this beautiful backdrop of our ark behind him. And I believe the timeline over up at Lakeshore Lobby, if you go up the aisle at the end of services, will have that incredible picture. And it was really cool that you guys made that connection. And you can also look it up on your phones too later if you want, but not during services.
Not during services?
No.
Okay.
Well,
I just also wanted to say a special thank you to Rabbi Gelman, who is our clergy liaison to Sholom Justice, an incredible visionary and leader. Thank you so much for helping to make tonight happen. We can hardly wait to go to Contextos with you, although I'm not so sure whether you'll have baby in tow or not by then. Very exciting. So we say to you, Bisha'a Tova, which is a pre-Mazel Tov. Mayan is ready at any point. And so it's really wonderful to be able to have this Shabbat with you. Who knows, maybe we'll have the next one too. But we know that soon you'll be on parental leave. What a beautiful, beautiful mitzvah that you've done for our entire congregation by bringing Contextos to us with the help of this amazing team of Sholom Justice. And I want to say again, thank you for sharing your stories. Not easy to share those stories, not easy to do so on a bima like this, but for all of us who have been able to hear these stories, you've transformed us, and we're going to continue to walk in this world together and do, God willing, great work together moving forward, healing for all of Chicago.
Amen.
Amen.
We turn to our concluding prayers, Aleinu L'Shabeach, on the bottom of page 586 as we rise.
עלינו לשבח לטוב הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלך Elohim HaKadosh Baruch Hu V'nemar V'haya Adonai L'melech al kol haaretz Hayom hahu Yehieh Adonai echad U'shmo echad.
On page 598, we find the words of Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish. And on this Shabbat, we are remembering those who have passed away in the last 30 days. Carolyn Katzy-Gantz, Ronald Spielman, Susan Kaplansky, Alicia Pettigrew, Walter Hess, Arlene Tucker, Sonia Alex, and Stephen Weisberger, and those whose yahrzeits or anniversaries of their death has occurred this week: Mercedes Abrams, Shale Baskin, Anthony Batko, Beatrice Berkowitz, Sydney Burrs, Marjorie Brownie, Sam Chibnick, Wayne Dale, Dr. William Dikowski, Fanchan Fran Ehrlich, Abe Golub, Dr. Jacob A. Goodman, Ted Grazeman, Kurt Gutman, Jeanette Hondequin, Abe Carnes, Lev Kadosh, Helene Mann, Julius Meyerowitz, Edna Miller, Marion Louise Morris, Israel Ofer, Lillian Potashnik, Jeffrey Shannon, Stuart Sharp, Alfred Charles Stanley, Jerry Taylor, Joseph L. Tobin, Lisa Tana, and Libby Weinstein. If we have names to add to our list of memory, I'll invite you to share them aloud. For all those whose blessings guide us, we recite the mourner's Kaddish.
Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalmad divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'vyomechon u'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevorach leolam u'lamei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemed kudisha leila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata de'amiran bi'alma v'imru Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Oseh shalom mimromav v'yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Oseh shalom bimromav.
Uyaseh shalom aleim.
Ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru imru. Amen.
We may be seated as we're going to conclude where we began at the bottom of page 643, singing together Hava Nashira.
Eliza, get on up here. You remind me of every time that my father dragged me to the bima. He put me to work and I never got paid. I just want you to know that. Never, ever. Hava, Hava Nashira, Shir Hallelujah. Shir
Hallelujah, Hava, Hava Nashira, Shir Hallelujah, Shir Hallelujah, Hava, Hava Nashira, Shir Hallelujah, Shir Hallelujah, Hava,
Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.
Let's have oneg together, celebrate Shabbat together with joy and love.